Good afternoon, everybody, friends and family, countrymen, writers, authors, speakers, coaches, whoever you are. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, I am excited. We're back with Author Talk. We're back. I know it's been a while and I've been wanting to start it again. And I was like, oh, got to get it started, got to do it. I really enjoy it. Love doing the interview and the Q&A kind of thing. And then I was like, when do I start? How do I start? And then the coaching brain in me said, start. And I was like, yeah, but what do I want it to look like? And how can I strategize it? And I need to get my color and my logo and I'll start. But start. So we started. And our first guest is Kyle. Kyle will be here in just a minute. He is actually, what I love is he was like, hey, I got a client and I'm going to be wrapping up right about 4 o'clock. So I'm going to be sliding in really fast at the last minute. Is that okay? And I'm like, dude, you're building a business based on the book you wrote. Why would I not respect and honor that? That's the whole purpose of what we're talking about. So I don't care if you don't show up till 5 minutes after the hour. Now, the guests in the audience might, but I told him I said I can stretch, I can fill, I can fake it. Worst comes to worst, tell a joke. Got lots of dad jokes. But first I want to talk, see, didn't do the dad joke. So the Branded Author Club, my passion, I love marketing. I love advertising. I love all things in that space. And this is one of my favorite times of year, not because it's fall and the leaves are turning pretty, but because it's politic time. It's, campaign season, it's election season. And I'm not that big on politics and campaigns. I'll just tell you that. Did that, wrote for those, not going back. But because it's a great time to study great copy. So if you're getting your mailbox full of all of those flyers saying, vote, do this, do that, don't throw it away. Do not throw it away. Take it, put it in a pile and study it for copy. And I have one that caught my eye. I am not endorsing the candidate, nor is this an endorsement for the candidate. We got that out of the way. So this one is making dad's grocery trip great again. I looked at that. I was like, making dad's grocery trip great again. And it's got dad toting the bag of groceries. And as I looked at that is an interesting twist because, truthfully, how many of us think of dad grocery trip? Those are two things that don't necessarily connect. And then I started to realize that it was addressed to me. And then I realized, wait a minute, having been in the political space and having done political campaigning and mailings, the database tells him that I'm a male head of household. And so when he created his marketing campaign, my curiosity is, did he create two of these? One for dad head of households and one for mom head of households, that when he was sorting his mail file, he targeted different groups with different marketing. And I say that because it caused me to stop and pause and read it and look at it and study it. And so I tell you the same thing. Are you marketing and are you targeting your marketing and your messaging to just everybody and hoping somebody finds it? Or are you taking the time to understand the data that you have at hand and how to utilize that data to create making dad's grocery trip great again? Just so you know, I hate the grocery store. I don't know if you're in one of those relationships. If you are, peace be with you. Like one person in and out of the grocery store, like they'll make 10 trips in and out of the grocery store just so they can get in and out, versus the other one, like, let's go down the aisle and see if there's anything new. I'm like, we don't even have a cat. I know, but there might be something new in the cat food aisle. We should go check it out. I'm like, why? This is not a museum. We are not here to look at things. We are here to pick up what we need and get out. So, Clint, as great as your marketing is, dad's grocery trip may not be great again. But do you also see the subliminal message? Great again. Like, study this stuff, read into it, use it as part of your curriculum for creating your book content, your message content. I love dissecting marketing and managing. And I see Our guest has arrived in the green room. He's fixing his hair. I see makeup still working on the final touch-up, so I'll give him a minute. So when I talk about the Branded Author Club, that's what I'm talking about, is how do you take what you've already created and begin to brand yourself, not as an author, but as an expert, as a leader in the space, as a thought leader, as somebody that can influence and impact others. And that's through smart marketing and smart branding. It's not running up down the street or having a booth at the county fair saying, buy my $14.95 book. It's inviting them into your space. And this is what we call a segue. I'm going to invite Kyle into our space now. See how I did that? It's called segue. Old radio
Nice
never.
segue.
Was that a good segue?
Nice segue. By the way, I do not like grocery stores, and that would have hit, that ad would have hit me, but I don't know if I would believe them, because man, grocery stores are I'm so glad my wife is willing to shop a vast majority of the time, because it is not for me.
I'm the one that has DoorDash drop off a gallon of milk.
Oh, there you go.
Don't make me go there. But it really did take me. It was like making Dad's grocery trip great again. I thought that's and so it made me stop and look at his profile, because I'm thinking, I wonder if he's a single dad. I wonder why the focus is on Dad. And then I realized, because he knows I'm a dad based on my head of household status on the mailing list, and he targeted back to me. So welcome.
Yeah. How you doing, Eric?
Did you see this book?
Oh, I don't have it yet. I need it on my desk right in front of me here. Looks good.
I told you it's coming tomorrow. I apologize. You live way out there in the woodlands. Takes an extra day. Congratulations on Sage Leadership.
Yes,
a
sir.
4-part framework for becoming a people first leader.
Awesome. I want to grab it. I can't, but I want to grab it.
Someday. Well, you have the original. And I think it's been fun. So I'm going to have you take a minute and introduce yourself before I slam you with 150 questions about your book and why you did it.
Yeah. Well, I'm Kyle Gillette, obviously the author of that book that Eric held, and he helped me make it happen. So thank you for that. I work with business owners that are looking to take out all the clutter, the frustrations and the broken systems and processes, and create a process and a system and the mindsets and habits so that they can get away from all that, empower their people, and get the freedom that they started their business for in the first place.
Okay, so that was a whole lot. So I have to break it down for the rest of it.
Sure.
Because you and I have been talking about, what has it been, about 4 months, 5 months?
Something like that.
Yeah, on the book. So I kind of know your internal language.
Yeah.
But for somebody who's coming in from the outside, first, what does people first leadership look like? Or what is this thing?
Yeah, well, people first leadership is understanding that what makes your business successful is the people that you are working with. They're your most important customer, if you will. And so the book helps you to understand the mindsets and habits that you need to help make that possible. But people first leadership is about empowering those around you at the highest level that you possibly can.
So you dipped across something really fast, but it's about empowering you with the mindsets and habits to become a people first leader. Is that how I heard it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why didn't you write it? It almost sounds like, wait a minute, as the leader, I've got to work on me, not on them.
Yes, you do. You got to work on yourself. If you really want to empower other people, you've got to get yourself figured out, which is why the first step in those pillars is self-awareness. What are the mindsets and habits in your life and in the work that you do that you need to work on? Because when you get those dialed in, that can move you towards the next step, which is accountability and so on. But if you don't have self-awareness and you don't have that self-control dialed in, then it's very difficult to empower other people. It's very difficult to lead them well.
So when I was in corporate America, they used to do this thing called like a 360 evaluation, where you were evaluated by one above, one below, one left, and one right kind of thing. And then you would sit down and you would read that evaluation. Is that the self-evaluation like you're talking about?
No, it's more of a, what are your values? It's more of a reflection on who you are, what you're about, what do you stand for? What are the mindsets that you lean into? I mean, are you a humble person? Are you patient? And how do you develop that in your leadership? Because you need that to empower people well. If your values aren't clear, it's very difficult for people to follow you because they don't know what you stand for. If you're not humble, it's difficult for people to want to be led by you because the lack of humility is challenging for people to interact with. If you're not patient, because people screw up all the time and so do you, it's difficult for people to grow and learn from you as well. So knowing those mindsets and knowing yourself in those areas tremendously improves your likelihood of having a great team around you and taking them to the next level.
So I like this idea that we have to be self-aware, or self-awareness is the first of the four. I keep wanting to call it pillars. I know we've argued about that for endless hours.
No, I like
One of the
pillars.
first, huh?
I like pillars. I think that
Okay.
makes sense.
I keep thinking like pillars because you structure it. I mean, in your book, you do a great job of talking about building the house and the foundation and how it all fits together. So self-awareness is the first piece. And I think it was interesting that you said if you don't know your values, then people can't connect with you. If you're not humble, they can't communicate with you. So in the book, you walk us through how to become self-aware, or what areas we need to become self-aware of.
Yeah, in the book, I walk through those. There's 5 mindsets that I primarily focus on that help you become more self-aware. And I give you very practical ways and also stories and anecdotes to help you remember what those mindsets are. And I ask you a ton of questions throughout the book, but specifically on each of those topics to help people embed these mindsets into their life and into the business. And when you do that, when you do this kind of thing consistently, that's why there's also habits, then it will actually start to change you in the ways that you need to be changed. Because one of the primary aims of the book is to help people become the leaders they're meant to be. I'm not prescribing to people the type of leader they need to be. As they shift their own mindsets towards these things to be more self-aware in general, they then become much more of the leader they're meant to be. And that's who we all need to be in our businesses, is who we're meant to be, because that's going to create far better results and success. And we're going to be way more comfortable in that role than faking it or trying to be something that we're really not. And so you got to start with self-awareness to make that possible.
Yeah, I remember there was, I'm older, much older, I think we've talked about, but so back in the day when women first joined corporate America and they wore the shoulder pads stiff and they wore the
Yeah.
men's looking suit because they thought that's what a leader looks like. I need to have those bold, huge shoulder pads and those big wide lapels so it looks like I'm wearing a suit. What does a people first leader look like when he walks into the office?
Yeah, a people first leader looks like who they really are. If you're a people first leader, then you know who you really are. You're embracing who you really are, and you're helping people to embrace who they really are. Because when you do that, your giftings and your talents and the strengths of yourself and those that you're leading get amplified and they get synergized together, and it helps you and them be far more successful. And there's a lot more comfortability with one another so that you can be more vulnerable, I guess you could say, but more able to connect and get the results, get projects done, get progress made. And so people that are people first leaders recognize this and put the work in to make that happen.
Yeah, I'm working with Wendy Burns. I think you guys might know each other on her book, but she uses the term unmasking.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of like the way you and her share the same story, that successful people or empowered people aren't afraid to unmask.
Yeah.
And you talk about the only way to arrive at that point is through self-awareness.
Yep. 100%. I mean, if you don't know yourself, how can you expect other people to be able to open up to you and you get the most out of them? Because as soon as you embrace how you're supposed to lead and who you are, it's very difficult. It's a lot easier for other people to notice that about you, see that vulnerability, and then they open up a little bit. And we're not talking about relationally here. We're just talking about skills and talents and gifting. And maybe there's some relational stuff that happens too, in terms of getting to know one another better. But it's mostly about all of a sudden there's this trust piece, which is a big part of the book as well, is getting that trust mindset built up for yourself and everybody else. And then you know their talents, you know their gifts, because they've been vulnerable enough to show you the things that they're good at and the things that they're not good at as well, which brings us a little bit into accountability too.
what I like about the self-awareness piece is you also talk about really doing that assessment of what am I great at? And then what am I not so great at? And for me, as individually, I grew up having to be great at everything, like even grocery shopping. But my father is a German Lutheran mechanical engineer
Okay.
who grew up in war-torn Germany. He's never made a mistake in his entire life. Even a
Okay.
mistake he sort of wrote off as like, well, I wanted to see if anybody would notice. So we grew up believing that we had to be that kind of leader, that kind of person in the world, that we don't show our flaws. We don't delegate our weaknesses to others. We almost like, like we're not weak, but I'm hiring you and I'm going to micromanage you. I like the shift that you point out that with people first leaders, the accountability part isn't about micromanagement.
No, not at all. I mean, first of all, I need to be accountable to set the example. If I'm gonna lead well, I need to be accountable. And I asked a buddy, I asked him or he asked me actually. He said, what does it mean to be accountable? And I was like, well, try to give an answer. And so he answered back to me and he said, it means you do what you say you're going to do. And I love that definition. It's very, very simple. You're true to your word and you follow through. And if that's how you show up at work consistently as the leader in your business, people are going to catch that and they're going to notice. And hopefully they're going to want to step up to that as well. And so I walk through a whole system of how to create accountability for yourself in the book. And I call it the accountability pass and all that. But ultimately, we have to have that self accountability. Otherwise, it's very difficult to get people to have that accountability. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with clients where their main complaint is their employees are not doing what they say they're going to do. They're not following through at the level that they could. And you got to put that back on yourself a little bit and go, well, where am I not holding them accountable? And where am I falling off and not holding myself accountable and setting a bad example here? And it's not always your fault, but still, the higher you bring up your accountability and following through and doing what you say you're going to do, the closer it's going to be for them to get to that level as well.
And I put that out there and I try to be accountable. I try to be honest about it, but sometimes that perfection thing and accountability thing, like if I admit that I didn't follow through, then am I a failure? Have I messed up? So I sometimes,
Right.
yeah. So it's something that I'm working on, but I have a tool for that now.
Right. Well, I talk about that in the book that we want to take risk, and part of risk is failure. And so if we're not telling people that we failed at whatever thing, then that's not very accountable either. And it doesn't show vulnerability, and it prevents other people from taking the risk that maybe would be really helpful for your business. They take that little risk and it makes a difference that matters.
I worked with a company quite a while ago, and they called it Failure Friday, where everybody had to bring a failure to the team meeting on Friday, because in that failure, somebody else might find insight.
Yeah, totally.
Or our department failed at this, and the other department's like, wait a minute, you know why you did? Because like you could see that the failure wasn't always just isolated, that it was a system issue that needed to be fixed. And so as leaders that create an environment where failure is an opportunity,
Yep.
you elevate.
Yep, 100%. And when the failure happens, somebody may see it from a different angle that you just can't see, and it ends up turning into a wonderful win. I mean, I had two businesses that failed before this one, but those two businesses set me up to do what I'm doing now. If I hadn't have failed in those two businesses, there is no way I'd be doing what I'm doing now, because it taught me so much about marketing and website stuff, and then also the networking and people side. And I made a ton of mistakes, cost myself thousands of dollars worth of wasted money, but ultimately those two failures allowed Sage Leadership to exist. It wouldn't exist if it weren't for those two big business failures. So I'm proud of those failures, and I don't have a problem with them. Plus, I had one.
Put it actually, I think at the back of the book in the author bio, we say something like having built businesses and failed at it.
Yes.
Perfect. I know it's in the book somewhere.
It is. Yeah, and I don't need to hide it, because
Oh,
man,
wait,
it
it's the
shaped things.
bold print on the back.
What's that?
I said, I think it's the bold print on the back
Right.
part.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's make sure it's very obvious that I suck.
Yes, yes. But I think that's, I think you're, but I think the humor that you bring to it is really the humor that, as you said, all people first. I think we've read it so many times, I've lost place. I think you even bring that into the book of like, don't be afraid to just like laugh and be like, look, I blew it. I thought we were going this way. We ended up going that way. The car went off the rails. Let's figure it out and keep moving. Like,
Yeah.
take it in stride.
Yeah, my first ever attempt at doing a workshop for an organization was a complete and utter disaster. I did a workshop with them on personality assessments, one-to-one assessments. They went well. And then I showed up to this boardroom with 3 people in the room, 3 people on the phone. One guy was in Alaska and somebody else was down the hall on the phone, but he was sick, so he wasn't in the room. And I had to do a workshop with someone down the hall, 3 people on the phone and 3 people in the room. That's just the recipe for disaster and for failure. And it was, I was dripping with sweat about 15 minutes into it because I knew that this was going to be a complete disaster. And it was the first time I'd ever done a workshop in my life in a multi-million dollar company, nonetheless. So but afterward, I realized, you know what? I completely screwed that up. It didn't get the result that I wanted it to, but I could do this. I could do a good job at this. And so I learned so much from that awful hour and a half of my life. Now I do workshops almost in my sleep. I mean, I did 2 this week and they were good. Everybody's laughing and learning and all those things. But had I not experienced that failure, I don't think that I would have wanted to push myself to get to a different level. You know, if it would have worked out perfectly, I don't think it would have been the same.
I've got the open mic failure, so I understand. But that brings you into the third zone or the third part, which is growth.
Yeah.
So from that, what did you grow and what makes a people first leader grow from that accountability?
Yeah. So when they're called out, when they're receiving feedback from other people, instead of pushing against it and pushing back against it, they accept it. They take it in and they learn from it. So it's that growth mindset attitude. In the book, I talk about 3 questions when it comes to feedback. And I met with a friend at a bar and he told me that I don't take enough risk. He just told me, he's like, I need to tell you something hard. And he said, you don't take enough risk. I'm like, okay, what do you mean? So explain it to me. And then I tried to defend myself, but then of course it stuck in my head for a long time and I started chewing on it and I started to accept the feedback more and more. And I realized that yes, there's some areas where I'm taking risk and there's some areas where I'm not. There's some areas in my life where I'm growing and other areas I'm just avoiding for whatever reason. But he held me accountable to that reality. You know, he was that check engine light for me. That's like, hey, buddy, do you notice that your check engine light is broken over here in this area? And I noticed because he pointed it out, and then I finally did something about it. So that's turned into several things that I've done. But the accountability helps you to shift into that growth mindset and reminds you when you're not in that growth mindset, where you keep yourself stagnated or don't think that there's more that's possible.
And again, the whole book is focused on changing your leadership pattern. And the first 3 were becoming self-aware, and then being accountable for where you discover you need to grow, change, or move, and then be willing to grow, or the third area is growth, in order to become a people first leader. And I think your book is so when I say so relevant, when you started talking about it, I'm like, man, we can't like hold people accountable by not letting them go to the bathroom and locking them in their cubes anymore
Right.
because they're working from home.
Yeah.
And in this current economy, contract work pays better than real work in some cases. That they're like, Charlie, I'm contracting from now on. See you
Yep.
later. I'm taking my skills and talents, go find somebody else. That you've got to be willing to say, wait a minute, you're my most valuable asset right now.
Yep.
And if I'm not willing to change with the times to at least adapt some of the principles, if not all of the principles, I'm going to be recycling people, which ends up causing a business to stop growth, if not go have negative growth.
Yep.
Now more and more websites, like what's it called? Is it Glassdoor, the one
Yeah.
where you can like report your employer for being a
Yeah.
schmuck?
I did that one time because the boss was horrible, absolutely horrible. And I went on there and yeah, go ahead.
So, I mean, like leaders, managers, team directors, whatever official title you got, if your job involves anything about retention, recruitment, or development, if you're not shifting your focus to making it people first, and this isn't about like making sure they have fresh Starbucks on their desk every day when they come in at 9 o'clock, or making sure that the break room has. I went to a company once back in the or web days, and it was like, well, on Friday we stock the refrigerator with beer for everybody and pizza, and we have couches. I'm like, yeah, but I just don't know if that's what I want to do. Like, that's not like
Yeah.
they were trying to put us on little velvet pillows. And I was like, I don't know. Like, that seems good for a Friday or maybe 2 Fridays in a row, but what happens to the entire company's productivity and the results? And how do I manage people that are just here for Beer Friday?
Yep. Yeah, it's a platitude quite a bit. It's just a little gimmick versus the real relational side of things. Because what I'm really saying with people first leadership is you need to know yourself. Yes, keep yourself accountable and want to have a growth attitude, but you project that, or you not project, but you shift that towards towards the people that you're leading and help them to also become more self-aware, to want to be accountable, to have that growth mindset. Because ultimately, if you want to have long-lasting employees and a long-lasting business, to me, there's one of the first habits in empowerment is study habit, and what I'm implying in there is not to study information or not to study your industry, but to study your people. Know your people and study them and know their ticks. One of the things that I love to do with my clients is give them an assessment. I have them take a personality assessment, and it's like a cheat code for me to get to know them really quickly, and then I get to know them continually throughout the coaching relationship. But I urge my clients to have every one of their employees take an assessment to help them understand them, and then meet with every one of the people that report to you directly at least once a week. Have a conversation with them, even if it's only 30 minutes or 15 minutes, but get to know the person, what their ticks are, what they're good at, what they're not good at, what their talents are, where they're leaning too far into things or they're not leaning enough into things. But if you don't spend time with your people and study them, there's no way you're going to unlock what's possible for them, which means you're not empowering them. And
Which is the little fourth one down here,
yes, the fourth one.
which I love. And it's interesting because that's a hard one also for, I'm a bad leader now that I think, no, that's a hard one for me because being that control freak, high D Virgo that I am, and all of the other handicaps I was born with, empowerment feels like giving up control. What's the difference?
Yeah, and empowerment is actually more of a multiplying effect, right? Most people a lot of times will get stuck on, I have to let go of control, I have to delegate, which they're just giving tasks to somebody. But when you're truly empowering, you're giving people responsibilities and saying, hey, I want you to be responsible for this division or this product or this service, and own it like it's yours. And I'm going to empower you, meaning give you the tools, the resources, the people, the money that you need to make that happen. And what that does is, instead of you taking away from that and pulling resources away from what you're trying to do and from other people, you're actually empowering someone, giving them the ability to be responsible for it. And then you're multiplying things because their gifts, their talents are better than yours in that area. Why did you hire them? If they're not better than yours, you shouldn't have hired them. They're the wrong fit. You need to hire people that are better than you in that particular area, and then give them the freedom to tackle it, which is why the risk part, the collaboration part, the innovation part, the study part, all those things in the book come together to help someone make it possible. Because as a sage leader in your organization, if you're really embodying this, you're going to have a bunch of owners. There's going to be a bunch of other business owners in your organization. They're going to own their role and their responsibilities like you want them to own it. Every business owner I've ever talked to complains about how nobody works as hard as they do that works for them. Nobody does what they do or runs it like they own it. If you're a sage leader and you do these steps and you embody the mindsets and habits that you need to take on, which I need to talk about that later, because you don't have to take them all on. But if you take on the ones that you need to take on and empower your team, now you're going to have a bunch of owners in your business instead of a bunch of employees that you have to shove around and tell them what to do. And that is multiplying way better and way more than anything else could be.
You know, well, you've had a chance to work with our team. I am blessed by my team.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
I didn't really hire them. I just like begged them to come alongside of me because they're so good that in the chaos of what I do, it's sometimes like, I just need you, like, I know you've got the skills and talents. I know you know what I need done. Go do it. And the first couple times out of the box, they kind of like, you can feel them walking slowly. And as soon
Mhm.
as I'm like, that's good. Like, and they're like, yeah, I could do better. I'm like, but you met, like, if you want to do better, but you're good. And so it's funny how much they bring to the table that I
Yeah.
can't see
Yeah.
when I'm just like, you're clearly, this is your thing. Like, don't let me micromanage you because I'll mess it up.
Yep.
That I can see for our business streams of income or revenue sources by just letting them create something that's their silo, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't always have to connect all three. It can be like, you're great. You met Daniel. Daniel's great at funnel building.
Yeah.
Like, somebody could just like, I need Daniel. Well, he's doing a website for another client that had a book that said, I just need a website. I'm like, Daniel, go do it. Like,
Mhm.
just like, don't get me involved. He's like, yeah, but I need your copywriting. I'm like, okay, so if you're a sage leader, and so that's the other, oh, I just lost my finger point.
What are
I'll
you
find
looking
it. Oh,
for?
found it.
Okay.
I'm on page of this most beautiful book, 206. When you get the book, make sure to look at page 206.
Okay.
Um, but anyhow, you guys, sage leadership. So it's self-awareness, accountability, growth, and empowerment. So if you're wondering, like, why did he call it sage leadership? Because it's based on self-awareness, accountability, growth, and empowerment creates a sage leader. The graphic takes those four things and then is um, Kyle has mentioned, both mindset habits are important. There you go. You have the better
There's the
diagram.
bigger version. I can't. There.
There you go. We'll just trying to like show me up because I have the book and he has the poster. But at the back of the book on page 206 is the four. See how nice that
That
looks?
is nice. Yes. That's good work right there.
Yeah, got to give that. Are the self-awareness, accountability, growth, and empowerment. And then underneath them is the 10 habits for each. Yeah, 10 habits.
Yeah. So I just want to mention something about that. The book has 20 mindsets, 5 for each category, and 20 habits, 5 for each category. And the thing is, you don't have to embody every single one of those. In fact, I make it clear at the very beginning that you shouldn't. And one of the things that leaders often try to do that's a big mistake is try to be all things to all people. And that doesn't work because you don't have all these talents. You can't do all these mindsets. You can't do all these habits. You can do some of them, you can do most of them okay, and you can do some of them really, really well. But if you're truly empowering people, you go, wait, I'm not that great at these mindsets and these particular habits. And it might be 10 of them or 8 of them or 20, whatever. And then you surround yourself with people that are, right? So if you're someone that's afraid that you don't have that abundance mindset, I talk about that in the growth section. And that's what drives the vehicle of your business. If you're not good at that mindset, then maybe you need to bring people in that have that mindset and you could take on some of their traits, but you'll never get to the level that they are. And that's okay because you've empowered them to really drive that part of your business forward. And that's a beautiful thing. So when people read the book, what I don't want them to think is you got to have all those things. No, nobody can. You get to pick and choose. And I want you to choose the one that you're already good at. Because when you choose things that you're already good at, you create a multiplying effect because you're leaning into the things you're great at already. When you choose things that you're not that great at, then you're subtracting because you're spending time on things that you're not that great at, which is taking away the time from the things that you are great at. This is why handing off to other people, giving responsibility is so important.
You know, and I say, not so here, if nothing, hear that lesson. It is the lesson that I did not learn until much too late in my life because I couldn't spell. I can't spell. Anybody that works with me as a client knows I can't spell. And they probably talk about me at the dinner table going, how does this guy do what he does
Right.
and can't spell? I mean, I just put that out during our first meeting and they're like, yeah, I'm sure he's not that good. But then they realize just how bad it is. But because of that, I would have never explored the opportunity to work together on this.
Mm,
I would have never explored the opportunity to do the 20 some other books over there. My skill is really in that concept idea translate, like how does the language get from here to here in a way that it works?
yeah.
And I have Courtney, who is an amazing speller, punctuator, hyphenator. Like that's her joy, is to like find missing commas in a 50,000 word document.
Not for me.
No,
No, thank you.
for me. Like she even asked me, "Do you know what a comma is?" Because she's not using too many of them lately. Um, Today she sent me a note about, let's talk about internal dialogues, and I was like, "Oh no, no, let's not." But I say this because when you go through Sage Leadership and you talk about those mindsets and those habits, there are some you're going to think, oh, I need to make that. I got to take my C minus to an A plus.
Right. Yep.
And straight out of the box, you're saying, like, if it's a C minus, call HR and tell them, find somebody that gets an A plus in that.
Yep.
You take the A plus, the innovative, the creative, the Warren Buffett space that you have for what you do, and you just keep multiplying on that.
Yep.
Because then you can hire a whole bunch of people to cover your C pluses.
Well, they talk about niching in business all the time, right? That you need to find a niche, and that's sometimes people call it niche, and niche is fun because it rhymes. So if you know your niche, you can get rich, right? It's the same thing with leadership. Know your niches, where it is that you excel, and lean into those, and it makes a huge difference for you. I want to make one comment though about the last. I think it's the last habit. Is that right? No, it's the last mindset in the book.
I can look in this.
I have to look. So for people that are watching, I have to look because there's so many. But the last mindset is obviously is going to be an empowerment, and it's the coaching mindset. This is one that even if you're not good at it, I want to encourage you to work on it. That's the exception to the rule. There's always exceptions because that is a tool in the tool belt of every leader that needs to get better and better. Right? That needs to exist. And without that tool, you're not going to be able to move your leaders or your coworker, or gosh darn it, speak English, your employees forward like you could. And I teach you how to do it. I give you a process, a very simple process of how to do it. But coaching is fundamental because with that, now as your employees are discovering things about themselves and they're creating more accountability for themselves and they're growing more and more, you can start asking questions that draw that out, draw the meaning out, and get into what's going on there and empower them even more. So that skill, I do have to admit, I want you, even if you're not great at that one, get better at that one. So that's the exception.
Yeah, that one I adopt, because with my team, I'll often say, like, okay, explain to me your why. And I try and do it without a judgment tone in my voice, but I'll be like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And they'll come back and say, well, here's why, or here's what, or this is my thinking. And I'm like, okay. Like either I adopt it or I'm like, okay, I get where you were going. It's not right or wrong, but here's where we need to be. Can you still get me there with this thinking, or do we need to change? And so I always try and learn I'm always open to, I tell everybody that I'm too old to fight with you. Just tell me what I did wrong and I'll fix it, or I'll just give up. One of the two. Sage Leadership you got. And so here's, this is one of those plugs. Let me get your little banner up while I'm talking about it. I'm encouraging you. I have the paperback. Paperback's going to be available on Amazon November 1st. Is that right? 2nd, 1st, whatever Tuesday is. 1st, November 1st.
Yes.
The hardback will not be available on Amazon. It is only available through Mr. Kyle, whether he's teaching your corporation or meeting with you over dinner or coffee. Because of the way the book is designed, and I sort of gave you a little glimpse of page 206, where it has a very clear chart and checklist that you can keep handy and follow, I would get this as a hardback, only because you're going to be digging in it and using it. And there's a lot of like little mini worksheets or guide sheets or whatever. Not to say there's anything wrong with the paperback, but when I have a book that I use as a resource book, I like it as a hardback, just because
Can
it.
I can I say something here? The thing about this book is what you guys probably don't know about me is I'm extremely practical. So in this book, it's like it's dangerous how practical I am. But in this book, there's questions to get you thinking, so that it gets into your brain, right? So it sticks there. But there's also a ton of content in there that's very practical that you can read it and then immediately apply it. This isn't a book on theory at all. I mean, there might be a tiny
No.
bit of theory, but it's a book on strategies and tactics, and then you do the work on your own self with the mindsets and habits. But within those mindsets and habits, I give you very practical things to do, so it can easily become a resource book. And because of the way it's built, it's easy to flip to the different mindsets and habits that you can then go, okay, what did he say about that? What does the acronym WAIT mean? What does the acronym PASS mean? Because I love me some acronyms. So making it be a resource book is very reasonable for this one.
Yeah. Practical. I'm sure somewhere in my notes or in the coaching call, I said, could we have a little more Kyle? Like, could we have a little more you with this?
Right. It's true.
You guys, the power of a good editor. It might have been a book of just bullet points if we had not.
Hey, that's a good idea. No, it's not a good idea.
But it is a very practical book. It's a very resource-centered book. And the thing that I applaud you. It's not like you have to be a great leader. It's like, no, you just have to take your talents, your skills, your gifts, and begin to use them and be intentional about how you focus your energy on those into your teams, into your organizations, into your family, whatever it is that you feel called to lead. And so again, I've been teasing him all week because I got mine early. It's a pretty book.
Yeah, he sent me a video flipping it through. I was a little irritated, but I posted.
So tomorrow he'll be doing his. I got my book finally.
Right.
So moving on to just the next step, because you know that we don't just do books, we do businesses, we do mindsets, we build beyond the book. What is, like, if this is where I get to meet Kyle through this book and the Sage Leadership Principles, what does it look like after this with you?
Yeah, so I've got three options, three layers that people can do. There's the course they can take, of course, and
that's on sale right now at your website, right?
Correct.
At the books. Okay.
Yep, it's at this link, and then also my website. Then there's the mastermind. So if you want to really engage with other leaders, it's a small group of people, 4 at the most, because I want everybody to have time to say what they need to say, to participate fully, that kind of thing. So there's
And
the
I'm just
mastermind.
going to tell you, Kyle does not do coffee chat mindset or masterminds.
No.
Is get out your pen and paper and let's work.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to my podcast, you'll see the way that I interview people is going to be a little bit similar to the mastermind, but much deeper and heavier topics, which is more, it'll be tied directly to the mindsets and habits in the book, and working on each of those over the course of weeks, because we need the accountability to work on those things. And that's what the mastermind is for. Of course, there's one-on-one coaching as well. I love doing that. But I'm in the middle of building I don't have the name quite yet, but I think I'm going to call it Sage Leadership Academy, which is going to be a membership membership setup where people can join, and we have masterminds, weekly calls, and also Facebook interactions. So that's the next layer of Sage. So if you're not ready to do a mastermind and you've done the course, but you want to do something else, but you don't want to do one-to-one yet, I'm trying to give you opportunities that are in different layers, because we all have different needs and different abilities to commit. So those are the paths.
And if I would pick one of them, because this is not one of those one and done kind of books. Like, I have certain books that I'll read and I'm like, oh, that shifted my perspective, that educated me, that taught me something new. This is really about making a commitment, like in 2023, to say, I'm going to become a people first centered leader.
Yeah.
Or a people first leader. And so I'm going to develop a habit, a principle, like I'm going to go it's a lifestyle shift. And that often needs that second level beyond the book. Like, I can buy a book on keto diet, but
Yep.
since right now it doesn't include candy corn or fruit flavored Tootsie Rolls and nobody holding me accountable, I ain't doing it. So again, you guys, Sage Leadership, a 4-part framework to become a people first leader. You can pick up a hardback copy at sagemindset.com, or I'm sure if you become a one-on-one coach, Kyle will be sending you one as well, but you don't get the hardback anywhere else. The ebook is going on sale Monday too. So, biggest lesson you learned about writing this book, different than your first book?
Biggest lesson: get feedback and get it often, because the people that are going to read the book, I want to know from them what they need. And I had an idea and I started to work on it, and then I handed it out to other people and they gave me feedback, and that feedback totally shaped the book. And that I didn't get that from the first one. And that feedback and listening to it and not being defensive. There's one thing I was defensive about. Somebody wanted me to take out the analogies about football in there because she's from Australia and so she doesn't know football. I'm like, no, we're leaving football in there. But otherwise, I took all the advice and made adjustments. And that's what we need. We need a team. That's what it is. It's all about people first. And that's what this book is for, is the people that are going to read it. And I needed the people to go first to help me to get this book done the way that it's done. And without that, no way. There's no way it would be what it is.
See, and I think that's what made it a great book, is because so often I see authors will be like, I'm going to write a book. And they go into like this little magical cave or to the top of a tower on a beachfront property. And, they take up smoking and just write the book in silence and then release it. And they're like, why is nobody buying it? Why is nobody reading it? And I can give you a whole bunch of reasons. But probably the most important is they didn't connect with the people that were supposed to find out if they were actually going down the right path.
Yep. I mean, I had an army of 30 people that I was consistently interacting with, and half of them actually gave me very direct feedback on the Google Docs version of the book. And that was invaluable. And a lot of them are in the acknowledgement of the book because they made it the way it is. And I'm so grateful for that.
And the other funny thing is they're going to go back and buy the book, even though they got a sample and they've been a part of it every step of the way. They're probably like, no, I'm invested. I got to see this thing through. I'm going to buy the book. So if you're an author that's like, well, if I show people, then they're not going to be interested in buying the book. Those 34 people are probably the first ones in line with multiple copies, because being an author is not about ownership of the idea. It's about bringing an idea to the surface that other people can participate in.
Yep.
And they feel as if they're part of the book itself.
Yep. And that's why I want to do the mastermind thing. And that's why I want to do the membership thing, because that's bringing life to Sage. It is a plant and it is alive. So let's make this idea of Sage come alive in a lot of people's businesses and lives as well.
Speaking of the plant, just to show you how pretty it is. See, it showed up there.
Yes.
And then it's at the top of every right-hand page again. Y'all can't see that. I actually say this because I've been teasing him all week. So the fun thing from our team is we have a new formatter on board, and this was his first. It was kind of his first solo project. He's been working on smaller things, and I said, "This one's yours. I like go." And
what did you do? What did you do? I'm going to interrupt you, because what did you do? You gave him responsibility, you made it clear what was expected of him. And then you're like, hey man, go for it. You empowered him to do it, gave him the resources, the time and everything. And then what do we get? We get a fantastic book.
Well, and it was funny because he kept asking me, like, can I do this? I'm like, I don't know. Like, just like show me, like, I don't expect you to fly solo, but my creativity. And so he submitted it to you and I almost simultaneously. And there were things in here that you had never considered bulleting, or you had never considered charting or putting in graph. Like, he created a whole bunch of
Yeah, I loved that. I love
specialized graphs were simply him reading the book and saying, this would look better in this format, or the way he did the chart at the back of the book. on page 206 was not part of the original written transcript. It's just the way he saw it is more accessible to the reader.
Yep.
And so I'm so proud of him. I've told him like so many times he's expecting a cruise to the Bahamas, I think, if I give him any more praise. But it's a pretty book, and I just keep telling him that. And he's like, well, but it's also useful. And that's why I'm so encouraging you guys to get the hardback, because of the way it's formatted, because of the way it's laid out. You can jump to page 92 and talk about the priority mindset and immediately see in a summary chart what Kyle's explaining when it comes to the priority mindset, and how are you using that as the priority mindset. Is that under awareness or accountability?
Don't ask me. I can't remember, to be honest. It's under accountability.
Okay. So if you're working on the priority mindset and you're like, wait a minute, what's it again? You've got the chart. The app is being built as well to help people
It is
adopt.
going to be on Google Play once the name is changed. And then once Apple quits messing with us, the app will be on Apple as well.
So again, if you're like, well, what is my habits for this month? Kyle has built an app that you'll be able to say, these are my 4 habits or 5 habits or whatever it is. And then you'll be structured through accountability and the other process. And so this is what I mean. It's like, this is not just like, oh, this is a great book. It's like, wait a minute, I'm going to shift my leadership style. And now I have a tool to do it. And I can commit the next quarter, the next year to doing it. And there's a whole ton of resources built around it.
Yep.
Which hey, you nailed it, buddy. Not only is it
fun. I love this stuff. It's a ton of fun. It's my baby, but it's not really mine, but it's mine. And I love to get it out there and share it and let people benefit from it, because it's powerful stuff.
So the question I often ask during the early on process, what do you want for people that read it, etc. So now that it's, for all practical purposes, out there, pick it up at book.sagemindset.com, or pre-order it on Barnes and Noble, and it'll be in your doorstep the first week of November. What do you want the impact to be 1 week after somebody finishes the book and 1 year after somebody finishes the book?
Yeah, 1 week to realize that this isn't that hard, that I can do this. As they're reading the book, they look at it and they go, okay, I got that. I get this. I can do that. I can start applying this habit, or I can shift my thinking just a little bit. And a week in, they're going, I'm starting to think about things differently. I have this new habit I've implemented. So just a couple simple things. And a year in, they've realized that, wait a second, I've actually empowered my team to have these mindsets and these habits themselves, because they're actually really good at them too. So not only are you, after a week, starting to embed those things, but now you've recognized that the SAGE approach, you can give that to your team too. And they can start to take on that approach. They can take on the pillars and become SAGE leaders themselves. And now all of a sudden, we have a metaphor in there about the SAGE leadership house. Now you've built a leadership house that will stand, and it will not crumble. It will not fall down when crap hits your business, because crap always hits people's businesses, unfortunately. The big bad wolf will not
doesn't it always?
Your house. And a weekend, you're going to start to see, oh, wow, there's some simple things I can do. But a year in, you're going to help your employees be able to see that. And that's what I want. That's what I see happening.
So there's a house. So you even have a graphic as a cue. And then what I really like is one of the things I know we talked about. So Kyle said, I really hate books that end without the next step.
Yeah.
Did y'all see that face? He was like, oh God, yes. Like, why do people do that?
Right.
It's almost like the cliffhanger for nonfiction.
Yeah.
Like, now you have the knowledge. Good night.
Yeah.
So you actually have the first 13 days of
10 days. First 10 days of.
Chapter 13, first 10 days.
Yeah. Well, and the reason I emphasize that is because those 10 steps are not overwhelming things. Like we don't have time to read through them or anything, but they're simple things that you can do that are very practical that will start to embed this process and this idea of sage leadership into your business. The other part of it is I also include what I do with it. I include a section, a final, I think it's the final chapter on how I implement sage. This is not something that I made up that I don't do and I don't follow. This is something that I follow, and we italicize the mindsets and habits that I follow in there. And I don't follow them all because you can't, like I just said, but I follow a lot of them, and I teach you what I do. And then you can follow that model if you want, or do your own. But that's the other part. Authors talk about this brilliant thing they have, but they don't actually do it. No, I do this. This works. I teach it to my clients. It works. It's not something I just made up while I was laying in bed. Well, part of it, I was laying in bed. But anyway, you could find that out in the book because it came to me that way.
It's actually the chapter titled The 3 a.m. No.
Yeah, 3 a.m. wake up. No, the 3 a.m. voice.
There you go.
Yep.
Well, and like I said, it's been so much fun. I'm excited for Tuesday. You're currently, so you have a goal of 1238,
83.
83, sorry.
1283.
Number of units sold, you probably will break through easily the first, well, your pre-sales are easily breaking through that, the 200 part. And once it goes live in paperback, I'm sure you will easily accomplish that goal.
That's for the month of November.
I don't see it as a book that's going to expire in value. I think it's a book that's going to stand the test of time. That, this is almost like the new 15 laws of leadership, because it really is a four-part framework for becoming a people first leader, which is what the conversation is about now.
Yeah.
So well done on being timely, being relevant, being clear in your message and your focus and your writing. You nailed it on all counts. Check.
No small part, and thanks to your help in that process as well. So
even my bad spelling.
Hey man. Hey, yes. Even your bad spelling. Hey, it made me double check things, which is good.
Yeah, and I say that, and I would have never, and I say this not for me, but for those people that are like, I don't know if my book is good enough. I don't know if I could write a book. I don't know if I'm an author. The gift that I've been given by saying, okay, if I don't worry about, if I let go of grammar and spelling and focus on what I do well, which is clarity of message, branding, messaging, marketing, and organizing thoughts in a logical way for people to be able to pick it up and use it. If I lean into that and let go of my C- stuff, like you taught and talk about, what could happen? And just the connection between you and I and this book would never have happened, or any other book that I've been a part of. And the legacy that you're creating through your book by shifting the work culture, you're on the verge of impacting people's lives, because they'll now go to work and feel of value. And if they feel of value, then they're going to make other people feel valuable. And that could be their coworkers, their spouse, their children. And man, what a time to be making people feel valuable.
Well, that's the vision that I have. And that was another one of those moments that things came to me, and it's to help business owners shift their mindsets and habits so they can become the leaders they're meant to be. And that's the heart of why I wrote this book, because there's so many leaders out there, business owners, that they're not quite what they could be. And they just need that little bit of a accountability, a little bit of a more self-awareness, all those things. And when that happens, they're going to move the world. And I get to be a part of a bunch of leaders, an army of leaders, an army of sage leaders that are moving the world in ways that it's just, I could not possibly do. But I fortunately get to be a part of that by helping them with some mindsets and habits. And that's, you kidding me?
I know. Isn't it cool?
Yeah, it's amazing.
And that's why I love what I get to do, because it's like, I could never have taught this lesson. Never. Just like, and that's not limited thinking. It's just not mine to do. But knowing that whatever I did helped it get done, And
Yes.
then you getting to, it's like, man, this is a really fun roller coaster, and I'm just one of the cars along the ride.
Yep. That is very cool for sure.
Yeah. And I say that for Jared's Truth and Wendy's soon to be released on Matt, like all of the books. I'm like, man, one life is get like one life.
Yeah.
So congratulations. I'm excited. I can't wait to see where it goes, how
Me
it
too.
grows. Sage Leadership, a 4-part framework for becoming a people first leader. Get a copy. Like, I can't tell you how much content is in this book. Well, it's what, 280 pages? No, 226. Sorry. I forgot the word count. Um, this is a very content rich book. There is not room for fluff. Like, we had to cut the fluff out just to make sure it could fit in the standard number of word counts. So there's just enough fluff to make you feel like Kyle exists and to guide you and coach you. But you have, if you're looking for a workbook, a manual of how to shift your leadership for the next quarter next year, Sage Leadership is it. And again, they have the mastermind, the video, the 6-part course, and there was one other, the one-on-one coaching.
Yeah, one-on-one coaching course, mastermind, and then obviously there's the app that will come out fairly soon here, and then also I'm going to have a membership thing starting to get built up in November. So look for all that stuff, because it's not one little thing. Like Eric was saying, it's a much bigger picture than just a book. I mean, it's much bigger than that. This is a movement towards
There you go.
people first leadership, Sage Leadership. That's what you're jumping on board to.
I need to get that T-shirt done because I think I told you over the weekend I did that copy. It's not just a book; it's your business.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, I'm like, it's your business to change the world. It's your mission, your vision, your business, whatever you want to call it. But stop thinking of it as a book. And Kyle, you certainly wrote a great book, so I know the courses and everything are going to be equally valuable. Thank you again for letting Skinny Brown Dog Media be a part of it. We're not done yet.
No,
like, we still got to get through Tuesday and then a couple days after that, and we'll continue to be. But it has been a real humbling experience to ride along with you.
Yeah, well, there is no freaking way I'd be where I am if it weren't for you and your team. So, and I fully mean that. I'm not just saying that because we're live on Facebook or wherever we are. Like, that is fact. So thank you.
I'll send that part to Daniel, because Daniel and you are like special buddies.
Yeah, true.
Daniel does our websites and our funnels and our email campaigns. And I love Daniel. He's just amazing.
Yep.
So thank you again. Congratulations. Your copy will be there tomorrow. Cool. So everybody tune into Kyle's page and watch him unbox it and tell everybody how pretty of a book it is. Yes. And then check out book.sagemindset.com. Tuesday morning, Monday midnight, the hardback goes away. And so this is not a fear of missing out kind of FOMO thing that we're promoting it that way. But if you're really serious about needing it, because what will happen is I will send in the print order for hardback limited editions. And once that order is printed and shipped, we will only run additional copies on large orders submitted by Kyle, not individual print orders. So if you want a hardback, jump on it now. And if you want a hardback and a paperback, you can pre-order your hardback on Amazon, or your hardback through book.sagemindset.com, and paperback and ebook on Amazon today. I think it's both up there now, or Barnes and Noble.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for jumping in and joining me. This was Author Talk. We've got an entire month every Wednesday. Additional author talks are coming. So I will try and get the schedule posted and up where you can see it, where you can ask me directly. If you're an author and you've got a book and you want to be part of Author Talk, I'm here to help and support you. So reach out and let me know. But for now, bye-bye, everybody.